But I want to talk about the political aspects of this, as well as the national security aspects of this war against ISIS. Joining me now, Florida Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, member of the Armed Services Committee. Senator, so good to see you this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Jose.
You voted in support of the president's plan to arm Syrian rebels. You also wanted legislation to clarify the president's authority to launch airstrikes like the ones we've been seeing. Do you believe the revelations about, for example, the Khorasan group has changed the perspective on what's going on in Syria now?
No, I think that's just another indication of how much of a threat is out there, Jose. At the end of the day, we can provide all these airstrikes, which I support. But I happen to agree with Tom Friedman of the New York Times. At the end of the day, this is going to have to be the Arab world and the Muslim world that are going to have to do this fight on the ground. They're going to have to decide to protect the soul of Islam and the Arab culture. Otherwise, it's going to be taken over by this very radical group, whether it's those that are trying to do harm to us as the Khorasan group and ISIS, or ISIS that is obviously perpetrating all of this violence against their own people.
All right, so while we wait for that to happen, and it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years before there is a real effort underway by those people that live and are from that part of the world to deal with this issue, we have to deal with the cards we're handed. And the cards we're handed are that this group, as well as others, according to the administration, are planning to do us harm. What is it that the president should be doing? And let me tell you, what is it that Congress should be doing? New York Times has a great editorial this morning talking about the fact that Congress ran to deal with the elections and maybe should be coming back to D.C. to deal with this.
Well, first with the president, I think he's doing exactly what he should, building a coalition. He's had intelligence flights over Syria since August 25th. He's doing exactly. He's turned it over to his experts, his commanders, to execute the strikes. The president's doing exactly what he should. Now, with regard to Congress, we ought to be back in session. We ought to be debating war and peace right now and ultimately voting to give the authorization for the use of military force.
By the way, you would support the authorization to use military force today if that vote was up?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the last speech I gave before we left Washington was we ought to stay there and have that debate. In that regard, I agree with Senator Tim Kaine, and he's very passionate about it. What I believe, however, is that the president, as commander-in-chief under the Constitution, has the authority to go ahead and strike in Syria, as he already has.
Florida Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, it's good to see you. Thanks for being with me this morning.
Thanks, Jose.